And I'm going to hand it over to my fellow MC, Ann Catherine Kimball from XQ.
Thank you, Betsy. And as you all are finding your seats, again, I'm Ann Catherine Kimball. I used to say I was a former educator, but for a profession like that, you never are a former, you're an always. And I felt that earlier when I told some people to shush. And sometimes when I'm looking at people's lessons, I very quickly am like, oh, I would do that in a different way. But I want to welcome up my colleagues from XQ and also from Inkwire. What is going to be really magical about the ways in which we talk through this next segment is that I'll walk through our XQ competencies and talk about the integration of that framework into Inkwire's really innovative AI platform. This really specific moment that I am really shining a light on is the special moment. Again, I spoke a little bit about it earlier today, but it's where the art of teaching meets the science of learning. That very important intersection is where you'll see a bit of the magic that we talk about today. But I'll pass it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves as well.
Sure, I'll start. Thanks, Ann Catherine. My name is Aziz Ali. I'm the head of product design at XQ, where we are trying to reimagine high school education and transform it by bringing together technology, product, turning theory into practice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Moni, and I'm the Chief Product Officer at Inkwire. I'm also a former middle school computer science teacher.
Hi, everyone. My name is Atash. Is my mic working? It's working. Okay, cool. I am the co-founder and CEO at Inkwire. I'm also a former middle school computer science teacher and a software engineer.
Thank you all. So when we talk about XQ, XQ develops tools and resources to help educators and classrooms really achieve innovative teaching and learning practices. Our navigator, our competency navigator, this framework that we developed is definitely rooted in our learner outcomes. These learner outcomes are tied to our competencies. So when you look at this honeycomb, you see a specific set of skills such as self-regulation, mathematical modeling, creative process. When I talk about that intersection of the art of teaching and the science of learning, and we think about the potential of AI, there are so many moments that don't get certified by standards, that don't get certified by a letter grade. That's where this framework comes in. How do you certify the innovative learning that AI affords? How do you really give students credit for that moment where students, in my opinion, are the best question askers? Young people are the best people to ask questions. Once we allow students the opportunity and the space to really get in the nitty-gritty with AI, there's a moment that we do want to certify the question asking, the computational thinking, and the mathematical modeling. I want to invite Atash up so that we can dig a little deeper into what it looks like when we use something like a framework like XQ's to really integrate itself into AI.
So just a little bit about Inkwire. Inkwire started as a platform to really take the burden of designing project-based learning experiences and implementing project-based learning, which is a difficult task for schools and teachers, and really easing that burden through an LMS, a portfolio system, and most recently through a project-based learning co-pilot. And this is a sneak peek of what it looks like. We're about to jump into it, but it takes a lot of the work that is required to flesh out a project-based curriculum and lesson plan and really guide teachers through that process. And so what we've done with XQ is taken that project-based learning co-pilot and integrated it with the XQ competencies. And so the idea is now a teacher can actually design a project that maps to one or more specific XQ competencies, and they can be really specific about what outcomes they want students to walk away with after a project. So that's what we're going to show today. We need to pick, but first we're going to actually pick some competencies that we want to design. So I'm going to put up the competency map real quick.
Okay, I am thinking of a project that some of our friends in-house supported one of our partners with, Edison High School. Shout out again. A little louder, shout out. Okay. where they play tested a simulation on the Cold War. So I am thinking that if that is what I'm designing against, I'd like to do, what about problem seeking? What about cultures? That's a part of the Cold War. And then, Moni, why don't you give us one?
Yeah, I would love for us to explore computational thinking because I think that that is a skill that is important for everyone to know, not just computer scientists.
Okay, we've got problem seeking, cultures, and computational thinking.
Okay, so let's remember those because we want to see how those influence our project design. Cool. So I'm gonna head over now to Inkwire into our project design tool. I'm gonna zoom in. And then, Catherine, if you could share that idea about the Cold War project one more time for me.
Yeah, so the Cold War, I want to do something different. I teach the Cold War the same way every year, but I want to do something a little bit more than role-playing. I want my students to do something more than reading a passage out of a textbook. I want it to be engaging, where students can debate a little bit and maybe take on maybe like the roles of national leaders, but I want them to have to work together.
Cool. Okay, so I've captured that here. And then what grade level?
Let's do 11.
11, cool. And if you can specify a time frame or a duration for me.
Let's do 4 weeks, 2 hours a
2
day.
hours a day, okay.
Because what I want to do is I want to work with other teachers and make it interdisciplinary so we can probably spread this out across traditional subject areas.
Sounds good. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a standard selector and we have a competency selector. So we're gonna jump into our competency selector and go to the XQ competency framework, and then let's find those 3 competencies that we identified. So I see cultures.
Let's start with cultures.
Okay, cool. And within cultures, we need to pick a specific component skill. So
Let's
yeah, go ahead.
what about global connections?
Global connections, cool. And then I see computational thinking. That's one of them.
Moni, what do you think?
I think analyzing patterns, perhaps seeing if students can pull out what was going on back then and how that might connect to patterns happening now.
Cool. And what was our third one?
Problem seeking.
Problem seeking.
Problem seeking feels more applicable because I don't quite want students to solve the problem of the Cold War. I want them to look for new problems. What about responsible engagement?
Awesome. So as we move to the next step here, let's keep in mind not only our 3 competencies, but the 3 component skills that we chose: global connections, analyzing patterns, and responsible engagement. While I kind of show you this demo, I also want to talk about some of the design principles going into developing an AI tool like this that's for teachers designing curriculum. And the first one is that we're really treating the teacher as the designer and the AI as a co-pilot. So whereas some AI tools, you might expect when I hit start, it's going to spit back a fully designed project for me. That's not what we're trying to do here. When I hit start, it's actually going to be the beginning of a design process. So I'm going to hit start, and it's going to take us to this page. And you'll see here, we have baked in a research-backed framework, which is the second design principle that we carry, which is that just like we're integrating the XQ competencies, we partnered here with the High Tech High Graduate School of Education, where I actually did my master's, and we've baked in their Design for Deeper Learning kaleidoscope. And this kaleidoscope helps teachers think through the core essential elements of a high-quality project. So we want to not just rely on what the LLM generates, we've baked in high-quality research-backed frameworks. So we need to actually start clicking through and selecting 3 of these different components. So which one would you like to start with?
I definitely want to start with my essential question as my foundation for
Okay,
what guides us.
cool. And so here you could actually type an essential question, or we can ask the AI.
Let's ask AI.
Let's ask the AI. Why not? Cool. And so these are the suggestions that are coming up from the AI. And again, let's try to look for the competencies that we chose and how they might be showing up here.
I see global connections in 1. I see responsibility in 2. There's Moni's computational thinking. Let's do 3. And then I also want to do 4 because that allows students to wrap this in what's happening right now, and that'll be a really good entry point for students to build in some empathy.
Awesome.
All right, essential questions. From here, let's see, what else oh, community partners will be a good one. Let's think about who else we can bring in from the community.
So we're asking the AI.
The option to partner with a local university, the option to collaborate with a veterans organization to facilitate a panel discussion. That would be really cool. That kind of humanizes the Cold War as a concept. And then, since we're at a technology event, should we do 3? Work with a technology company that focuses on data analysis? Okay.
Now, one thing I want to point out here as well is that and this is kind of the third design principle I wanted to mention, is this idea of helping teachers actually develop their practice. So we're not necessarily trying to just automate this work, right? Like I said, it's a co-pilot, but even more than that, it's helping teachers learn what makes a good community partner, what makes a good essential question. So by going through this process, we're actually helping teachers build their project-based learning teaching practice.
And the part that's happening for me right now is I'm making so many connections in my mind back to the competencies, back to what I first initially know about the Cold War, but also to how I want to do this differently. Can we think about the product? What will students make, build, or do that will have an impact on us or the world around us? A documentary film series, a strategic board game, absolutely that one. You can tell I like to have fun. I'm a humanities teacher, so always about to have fun. Organize a Cold War simulation day. Okay, let's do 3.
Okay. So we got 3. Strategic board game. Cool. So once we've selected at least 3 elements, what we can do next is generate a 1-pager for our project. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And what's happening here is it's actually taking the inputs and the decisions we've made and synthesizing it into a ready-to-use project summary. It's going to capture the purpose of this project. It's going to capture the learning goals. It's going to do some standards mapping for us. You know, we didn't pick standards, but we said we're 11th grade, so it found some Common Core standards as well as an ISTE standard. It's got our competencies. It's captured our products, and it's also showing us how we might launch this project and exhibit student work. So maybe we can just read one of the launch ideas that it has.
To launch the project, start with an immersive simulation activity. Transform the classroom into a Cold War crisis room where students are grouped into teams representing different nations involved in the Cold War. Actually, shameless plug, this afternoon we will be deconstructing something very similar to this based on our Edison High School partners who really, really were able to allow their students, like Principal Ojeda said, his students come to him super, super ready, super, I don't even know what to call it, but very, very ready as leaders to lead some of this work. So we will definitely deconstruct that. And I'm just shocked that this is the hook of something that is like a project that feels so comprehensive like this.
That's awesome. And then how does this exhibition idea feel?
A Cold War strategy night at the school where you can present and facilitate strategic board games. Yeah, this is cool. This is really cool.
Cool. So this is a 1-pager. It's meant to be a shareable kind of summary of the project, but where it gets really into the tactical and supporting teachers is when I click over to this plan tab, and you know, we mentioned it's a 4-week project, 2 hours a day. So what the plan tab here is doing is actually breaking this project down into what that's going to look like over the 4-week period, including what activities students are going to do, what deliverables they're going to create, what prep work the teacher needs to do. You can see it's kind of broken down by week.
Wow. So what if I go through this and I want to swap some of the activities around? What if what I read is just not quite what is doable within the bounds of my school day, be it time, space, technology, abilities?
Great question. So you'll see up here we have the version, it says version 1, and there's a regenerate button. We know that this is not going to be a one-shot process. It's going to be an iterative design workflow where you're going back and making tweaks. You might choose different exhibition or product ideas, and then you might regenerate the project. And one of the things on our roadmap is to be able to even more directly either modify some of the activities or be able to generate resources and kind of more in-depth lesson plans for them.
I have a gazillion questions, but I definitely want to make sure that we get questions from the audience. So I'm actually going to pass it over to my friends, Moni and Aziz, to facilitate questions, and I will hold my questions for later. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, anyone. Anyone has any questions?
Hello, my name is Ashley King. I go to the Brooklyn STEAM Center, and my question is, thinking about AI's trajectory, how it's becoming more prevalent in our society, how do you think it will help your goal of improving the future of education?
That is a great question. So just to make sure I got that right, so thinking about how AI is becoming more prevalent in society, how is it shaping, or how do we think it's going to shape the future of education? So I'm very excited about this topic actually, because I think the future of education is, to me, one where students get a chance to really engage in things that they're interested in, and their interests are what's driving the curriculum, not lectures and things that were written and decided, like subjects that were decided 10 years ago. So I think AI is actually helping us push education in that direction, where these lectures aren't going to cut it anymore. Like the current assignments that are based on those lectures can be done in ChatGPT, so we have to change what's happening in the classrooms, and my big hope is that leads us to more project-based learning.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add that the one thing that AI is really good at is giving us the speed and scale in which we can access information. And so what that's going to do is just gives much more creativity for teachers and students to be able to use AI as a co-pilot and starting to iterate and start to see multiple different aspects of different diverse cultures or different diverse identities. There's a lot of things that we do have to do in terms of the different LLMs that we're using right now, because they do lack a lot of the cultural sensitivity. And that's one of the reasons why we have things like the competencies when we think about how we start to put the guardrails against some of the AI LLMs that exist right now. They're sourcing from everywhere. And for us, we build things like the competencies to start to democratize the cutting edge learning science that we're doing in institutions, to then bring that to the tools and products that are going to be using these LLMs and giving them the guardrails to actually start to bring that cutting edge information into the practice and into the classroom in a meaningful way.
I like to say it really allows for that art of teaching. You get to really practice your craft as an educator. You get to really bring in the things that you're seeing in your classroom and better align and adjust what you're doing, not only for your learners, but for engagement. It is so much fun to create in this way. You really get to let your inner child play and do things different than how you learned them, how you were taught to teach them, how you've taught them even in first and second period. If you realize it's not working, how do you speed up with agility, but also alignment within these guardrails to meet the needs of your young people? We have one question here.
How do you use the programming to create a lesson plan that makes students think deeper about the projects?
Yeah, so I can kick this one off. So what we've done is we are leveraging these large language models, but we have specifically trained our version of this large language model with what we call our own prompting layer, where we taught it about what is a high quality project. What does curriculum that really values student interests, makes learning more engaging, all of those great things, what does that look like? And those are the guardrails that the AI has to go through and think about when it's generating content.
And I would add, as former educators ourselves, I think that the thought process that goes into the design of the tool, having that be really influenced by our time in the classroom and working with students, it kind of raises the bar of what we think is engaging and requires students to think deeply. And so that's a big part of the DNA of what we're building.
My name is Jiaoqi, and I go to college, Asta Collegiate Academy. And my question is, how did you decide what specific resources Inkwire can create for teachers?
I'll kick this one off too. So one of our values, and something that I think is really important for any technologist building in any space, but really in order to build powerful educational technology, you have to talk to the people using it. And so part of our design process is actually going and talking to teachers, really understanding from them what it is that they need. And from there, we are able to pull out and make decisions of what is it that we should add to Inkwire. Thank you for all the questions.
Thank you.